This is the trauma side of my story. My parents got divorced, and I can't even look back now and say exactly how old I was.
I was just going to ask how old you were.
I think I was around 11 or 12 when my parents got divorced. There was, the trauma to me was seeing my parents interact previous to the legal part of it.
Sure.
Their separation of, love wasn't there anymore, and anger now became part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Disagreements all the time, and things were happening. And as a kid, at that age, you're witnessing this. Times where my parents would fight, and my dad would go, punch a hole through our bathroom door. I mean, seeing that as a kid is pretty traumatic.
Where you are now may not be where you came from. The choices you make today may spiral out of control or spin you in the right direction. Discover a riveting, true story of how Carlos Vieira nearly destroyed his life and lived to tell about it. Stand up, stand firm, believe, make it happen, and live through the madness. Knocking doors down along the way. And don't miss others telling their powerful stories on our podcast. Visit kddmediacompany.com.
All right, ready?
Sure.
You ready?
Yep.
Are you positive?
Wait. I'm good. Okay.
Teeth in the tongue. Come.
My 4th grade lisp is going to come out.
That's all right. Dude, you're good.
What's up, guys?
What's your name?
guy?
Jason Van Dusen.
They call me JVD. JVD. Knocking doors down. Jason Van Dusen, personal friend, works with us.
Absolutely.
JV Dizzle.
Welcome to the show, man, and
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story, because it's funny. Until we had some work trips, I didn't know that you struggled with addiction of any kind. What were the substances? And
So my drug of choice back in the day, and I'm working on 17 years clean right now.
Hell yeah.
Was
Nice.
methamphetamine and cocaine.
fuck, man,
Yeah.
when did we fall into that?
Gosh, my story with that kind of hit me in my late teen years, so 17, 18 years old, right after graduating high school,
Yeah.
and just kind of got caught up in a scene of trying to please the peers around me, and I tended to be more of a follower in those aspects,
Yeah.
Other friends started doing things, and specifically the cocaine, other friends started doing things, and I wanted to be part of that. The meth was kind of my own thing. It was kind of the first time in my drug world that I wanted to be the leader. So I started that on my own. My other friends didn't really partake.
Hey, fuck.
So when you saw it for the first time, were you like scared of it, or were
Blown
you
away.
interested?
I was
or-
freaked out.
Yeah, I can imagine. Same here. The first time I saw coke.
Yeah, there's
too.
specific memories in my head that I have of, walking into a party and seeing one of my good friends, with a giant mirror on the bed with a, 2-foot line of cocaine ready to go.
Not realizing how many people did it until you're in the room doing it
Absolutely.
with everybody. Yeah, same.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it was a freak out moment. Quickly turned around, left the party.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what I just saw. Freaked out a little bit, and then I think less than 2 weeks later, I was doing it myself.
Right.
That's a pretty quick turnaround for being freaked out and then doing it 2 weeks later.
That's why I said the peer pressure was a big part of it, because that friend of mine that was doing it, in that room at that time, really started talking about, the fun side of it.
Yeah.
And it
Sure.
was always like, okay, well, if it's that much fun, like, yeah, I'll try it.
Yeah.
As
Well,
we,
and that's where it starts, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I'll try it.
yeah, because we always talk about it, and anyone, it was fucking fun when it started, but as we quickly know, it goes a completely different direction that takes you south.
Yeah, and I think the grip it has over you, like it hits you hard, and you don't even realize it has that grip.
Yeah.
So the first time you did it, were you intoxicated or did you?
I've
like,
never
did you-
been a real alcohol guy.
Okay.
So no, to answer your question, I wasn't intoxicated. It was just seeing that, freaked out. A couple weeks later, being around those same friends in a party atmosphere where it was available,
Yeah.
and it was kind of like I didn't want to be the only guy not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So let's jump in.
Yeah.
How'd
No.
you feel?
Felt great.
First time you did it, you loved it? Or
You
what?
know, that's the scary part of it, was the enjoyment aspect of it.
Sure.
Was the biggest grip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, once you did it, it was like, I love this.
Yeah.
I really do. I love this. Mikey, you know, you and I have talked. It's, you know, there's a point where you're like, you know, I was productive. I was, you know, I could say sentences and felt like a scholar. You know what I mean? I told Mikey, I felt like I could go give a conference speech, you know what I mean? And nail it.
Right.
So, you know, you start getting that and you don't see the negative. And all of a sudden it's like, well, why stop?
Yeah.
Nothing bad's happening to me. Why stop?
Sure.
And that's a pretty crazy way to go into it. Like, you did it for the first time and you loved it. Like, when I did it for the first time, my mind was going crazy. It was just like, I can't believe I just did this. What am I going to be hyper? Am I going to be able to sleep tonight? Like, I don't really know what to expect, you know? And the first time I touched it, I didn't touch it again for a long time. And I only did it the first time because it was just there. But the first time I seen it, I was in high school. And I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what my parents warned me about, is this moment right here, seeing it. But for you to have the 2-week turnaround, that's amazing to me. Like, you saw it and you were so freaked out. And then you did it 2 weeks later. It's like, so you had to have been thinking about it.
I was more freaked out about seeing my friend doing it,
right.
not the drug.
Almost kind of like disappointed in him? Or
It was more of a disappointment. Like, I never thought I would walk into a room and see one of my good friends that I've known since elementary school
doing drugs.
You know, having a line of cocaine or doing drugs in general, whatever it was. Yeah. That was the scary part, freak out moment for me. It wasn't like the cocaine. It wasn't that. It was just, I have a friend that's literally upstairs, you know, with a mirror on a bed, with 4 other guys in there, and they're sniffing lines. Like, they're doing something like that. That was the fearful side of it for me.
Sure.
That was the freak out moment, you know. So that turn around and walk out wasn't necessarily because I didn't want to be around the drugs. It was because I didn't want to necessarily sit there and watch my friend, you know, doing what he was doing and experiencing that. So,
Well, that makes more sense then. It wasn't in fact the drug, it was that you saw your friend do it. I get that.
Yeah. And then, you know, getting into it, honestly, when it comes to, I mean, I started smoking cigarettes, you know what I mean, when I was 13, 14 years old. My dad was a smoker, and when I tried cocaine, you know, I didn't really have that initial reaction of, you know, ooh, I'm scared. What's this going to be like, you know? Because experimenting with cigarettes for the first time had that same effect. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, I've seen them smoke it. I know the process. I know what to do. But really, what's that going to feel like when I actually inhale? You know what I mean? So once I did that, or started smoking marijuana, you know what I mean? Which, you know, is, again, part of my addiction. Right. But once I did that, it kind of removed the fear of that something bad was going to happen when I started experimenting with other things.
Right.
Yeah.
So cigarettes and weed were kind of the icebreaker. You know, I don't know if I necessarily, you know, agree with people that say it's the gateway drug. You know what I mean? I definitely think it opens your mind up.
I don't agree with that at all. Not at all.
It just, you know, it eliminated that, you know, your parents growing up, right? Stay off drugs, the say no to drugs, the DARE programs, all these things. It was all about.
I had fucking Winnie the Pooh as a kid. Oh, don't do drugs, you know.
I mean, if Pooh said don't do it, then you don't do it.
Pooh said don't do it.
But a lot of that, you know, this is your brain on drugs. Like, those things were all about the catastrophic things that could happen if you partake, right?
Yep.
Once I started smoking cigarettes and weed, those things were like, all right, I'm good. You know, having the opportunity, and again, led by peer pressure, to dive into cocaine and just start, you know, going down that road wasn't an issue. The fear wasn't there. Right. Then kicked in what I thought were the positive sides, the fun, you know, the articulation in what I was saying, right? The ability to do things, and I don't know, it was just there was more highs to it, pun intended, than there was negative effects for me in the beginning.
In the beginning.
So
let's jump back a little bit. You talk about dad. Dad was a smoker. So what was Jason like as a little kid, and what was growing up, man?
You know, I grew up in a pretty safe and normal suburb family home. You know, I have an older brother. So 2 kids and 2 parents, and my parents were, you know, married when I was young. And life was good. It was normal. I was a spoiled little kid.
Is there any addictions in the family besides cigarettes?
No.
No?
I mean, on my mom's side of the family, there was, you know, some drug use.
Sure.
I don't to this day, I don't know all the full details. I know even my dad got into the pot game But he never smoked it. He was just a dealer.
I'll be damned.
Really?
He grew it in his backyard.
Oh, see, my dad's
And
the
he-
same way. He's a little hippie. He smokes weed still to this day.
My dad's a surfer from Huntington Beach, you know? And,
Yeah.
so he was that guy that, you know, he didn't necessarily want to smoke it. He just wanted to, you know, supply it.
Sure.
So, yeah, when I was young, in fact, you know, as you get older, you dig through the chest of old pictures.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the pictures I brought out or I found was my brother holding a little watering can, standing in the bathroom watering the weed plants.
I wanted you to say the picture was me holding a weed plant. I really wanted you to say that. And we have to get that picture, but I guess not.
We'll pop that up on the clip. as
Needs
it-
to go into the
Yeah, that'll
YouTube
go
video.
in.
Yeah.
No, but it was one of those pictures where that's where I started the conversation. I think I was about 16 years old when I started the conversation and found out about my dad. So no, to answer your question, there wasn't any previous addiction. I think on my mom's side, my uncle was, again, big into marijuana. I think he did get into some heavier, harder drugs, but I don't know too many details about that. So, but my childhood was relatively normal. I mean, go to school and
Sports, that kind of shit.
big athlete. Baseball was my sport, soccer.
Yeah.
I was heavily involved in sports, and life was good.
Yeah.
You know, there came a point when I was, you know, this is the trauma side of my story. My parents got divorced, and I can't even look back now and say exactly how old I was.
I was just going to ask how old you were.
I think I was around 11 or 12 when my parents got divorced. There was, you know, a bit, the trauma to me was seeing my parents interact previous to the legal part of it.
Sure.
You know, their separation of, you know, love wasn't there anymore, and anger now became part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Disagreements all the time, and
Yeah.
you know, things were happening, and as a kid, you know, at that age, you're witnessing this. You know, times where my parents would fight, and my dad would go, you know, punch a hole through our bathroom door. You know, I mean, seeing that as a kid is pretty traumatic.
5150 is power. The power to overcome. The power to persevere. The power to set your life on a course for success. When you're faced with the challenges life throws at you, you focus and do what is needed to go beyond what is required. So stand up, stand firm, believe, make it happen, and live through the madness, knocking doors down along the way. We are 5150.
There's a lot of times, I mean, even today in the programs that I'm involved in, you know, we talk about, you know, traumatic situations that might have led to things, right? And some of the people I talk to have amazing stories. And when I say amazing, I mean just completely like, I can understand why you went to drugs.
Yeah.
I can understand why you did that, right? My wife's one of those, you know, her background. But mine was, okay, my parents got divorced. I mean, I don't even know what the accurate stats are these days, but it's like 50% of all marriages end in divorce anyway. So it's really no surprise, right? But to me, it was the process in which my parents were arguing, you know, all the things they went through. When they finally got divorced and my dad moved out of the house, it became this, which parent am I going to go live with, right?
Yeah.
And it was difficult as a kid.
Well, even statistics aside, you never expect it to happen to your parents.
No.
You know? So
Yeah,
that's
no,
gotta
not at
be
all.
that's gotta be traumatic.
Well, and you know, it's kind of the thing that, you know, they say don't compare yourself to others when it comes to success, but you can't when it comes to negatives either, because, you know, we all have this, you know, our brains forming when we're kids and not reaching maturation until you're in your early 20s.
Yeah.
And so those little things and those pinpoint things, you know, they stand out for people no matter what. And someone, you know, we were joking about the from Half Baked Bob Saget, you know,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
You ever suck dick for coke?
Coke, you know, weed, that's it, you know, but it's like everyone can have
Yeah.
their certain traumas. I got mine, you know, Mikey might have some of his that trigger whatever it is. They're all something, because now you're having to deal with an adverse situation of, like you said, do I go live with mom? Do I go live with dad? What's the co-custody? You know, it's fucking tough on kids. As a father of, you know, my kids having to deal with that, it's tough for them to bounce back and forth.
Yeah, and I think the most difficult decision was when my mom decided to move to Oregon. I was, I think, 8th grade, freshman in high school when she decided to.
So where were you from before Oregon?
So I'm originally from Livermore, California.
Okay.
I don't think I knew
Bay
that.
Area.
Yeah, that's where I'm born. Yeah, East Side or East Bay. Not really East Bay, but it was called East Bay.
Right.
But yeah, I was, you know, that's where we were from, and my mom had all her family up in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And when the house sold, when they officially got divorced and separated, my dad worked and stayed here. My mom, for a few years raised me and my brother,
Mm-hmm.
In an apartment in Livermore. And after that, she decided to pack up and go to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, I'm left in this position of, do I go and, be with my mom, or do I stay and finish my high school? And I leaned on the side of staying because it was like, well, I don't want to leave high school. I don't want to start over summer fresh.
Yeah.
So I stayed here with my dad. The problem was, my dad, was now a newly divorced father.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what he was paying, and whether alimony or child support or whatever.
Right.
And he rented a room from a few guys. And in order for me to live with him, we had to basically pay for another room. So quickly at 14 and a half years old, I was trying to go through high school, play sports. And here I am paying rent,
Right.
to help my dad out for this room that we're living in. So that was difficult. I had to grow up really fast, which also was a big key in, the later dabblings in my drug days. But yeah, I stayed with him, would go to high school, play baseball practice after school or do the games. And then after that, I'd go to work telemarketing till about 10 or 11
I was
at
going to
night.
ask, where the fuck were you getting a job at 14? 'Cause-
Calling East Coast people and trying to get them to refinance their homes over the phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're calling them at like 10 at night Eastern time to
Well, no, it's at 10 o'clock Pacific time, so Eastern.
1?
Yeah, I mean, there was different time zones, different times of the night, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So by 10 o'clock, I'm sure we weren't calling people in New York. But
Right.
I know, quickly after that job, if it started at 6 p.m. or something like that, we were hitting the Eastern time. So yeah,
Right.
we were dialing people and getting them to refinance their house at 9 p.m. at night or something like that.
As a
So,
14-year-old kid.
yeah,
That's
yeah, with a work
insane,
permit
dude.
from high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I got my first job back when you could get it at 14.
Yep.
And
Nowadays, I don't even think they do that anymore.
No, I think you got to be 16 now. I
Yeah.
believe.
No, I had a work permit at high school that let me out at certain times if I needed to go to work early or whatnot. But either way, it just felt like, I had entered adulthood, like, really young. And it was like, all right, it's time. This is life.
And that's when you started smoking cigarettes too.
Cigarettes was, 13, 14 years old. I really, started, I was stealing packs from my dad.
Mm-hmm.
That's a funny story, man.
Go for it. Okay.
Yeah, stealing packs of cigarettes from my dad. And, as much as he smoked and as many cartons that he had sitting around, I never figured, he's never going to notice, right? In my full-time cigarette smoking days, I noticed when a pack's gone, right?
Oh, you noticed that. Cigarette smokers notice.
Exactly. So there was this time, I think I must have been 16, 17 by then, but I started when I was 13, 14, stealing packs from him, buying them occasionally, but if they were free and I can get them from him, no problem. So I'd take a pack. Well, one time I take a pack and I'm going out and we're hanging out with our friends at what we called our chill spots. You know what I mean? Go smoke some weed and, smoke some cigarettes and just hang out, right? And I'm packing this pack and I go to open it and I look on it. It's got writing on it. It says, I know you've been taking my cigarettes. We'll talk when you get home.
Oh, shit. Your stomach drop?
No.
No?
It didn't.
Like, man, fuck you, Dad.
Again, the relationship my dad and I had at that time felt more like a roommate thing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
He was in a tough spot, right? That's
Sure.
that's a tough thing to do. Now I can look back and say that's tough, raising a teenage boy. And again, I had my older brother that at that point was, trying to go off to college and do that thing. He was kind of on his own. So yeah, I really just smoked as many cigarettes as I could out of that pack before I had to go home and discuss it with my dad. And that discussion was really just, hey, buy them on your own. This is my money.
I feel like
I work
dads are
hard for that.
Cool with stuff like that. When my dad asked me if I smoked, I just said, yeah.
I don't know if it was cool or just he didn't want to deal with it.
Well, yeah,
Right?
that's a
Yeah.
good point, too. It's like, because the way he handled it was like, more or less, okay, well, we never had this talk and don't let your mother smell it on you. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe he...
Well, we kind of have
Just
that
didn't
generation of parents too. I mean, I know more your story and mine similar than Mikey's, where it's almost like you're a fucking latchkey kid. You're almost under your own volition to just kind of figure it the fuck out.
When my mom left the state, it was free reign.
Right.
I could go and stay at a friend's house for 2 weeks. My dad wouldn't give a shit. You know what I mean? When I saw him, he'd probably say something like, where you been?
Yeah.
Oh, I've just been at, Luke's house. I've been at friend, whatever it was. It was just like, but it wasn't, when it came down to dealing with the consequences of my actions,
Yeah.
didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I never got in trouble in high school. Not that I was, because I didn't start drinking or anything. People don't believe it till after high school. I was the dude that just got drunk people home and all that shit. But I definitely would disappear for a week on end or whatever. And once girls were discovered, there was a lot of disappearing.
Gosh, I was in trouble in high school all the time, man. Parties, cops being called. Remember Dad just picking me up and just looking at me, but I was never really afraid of my dad as much as I was my mom. She's a Hispanic mother,
100%.
so she, we'd have to hide the wooden spoons and the shoes because pretty much anything.
Would she get you with the chancleta?
Pretty much anything that you could throw, she would if you pissed her off. And yeah, no, Dad he was always cool with it.
Dad, when he reached that level of temper,
Right.
it was like, oh shit.
I was more afraid of getting bad grades than I was getting caught being drunk with my dad.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I got to say, when in my party days at high school, again, I wasn't really a big drinker, so I'd go to these parties and maybe drink a beer or something like that. But I had this like intuition whenever we were at parties or hanging out doing something we weren't supposed to do. I was the guy that like saved everybody's ass.
Sounds
Like it was
familiar.
that, guys, I think we need to go around this corner really quick because I think there's cops coming. And sure as shit, we go around this corner and, you know what I mean? Whoop, whoop. Lights come and everybody's fleeing the party and we're like, well, we're already gone. So thanks, J-Dog,
Yeah.
Cigarettes actually it was funny. That was my cover. Anytime we'd smoke, anytime we'd light a bowl or a joint or a blunt or hit a bong, whatever it was with marijuana, I would always smoke a cigarette. And my friends would kind of be like, man, Jay, we don't want to smell that. Why are you doing that? Like, we're smoking right now. Like, we like this. We don't like that. So stop. And I'm like, guys, I can't. I just do it for cover.
Yeah.
And every time, I swear, it was like, it was good that we had that cigarette burning right now because the cop pulled up and they didn't smell the weed because I was smoking cigarettes. So, it was weird. I had this weird intuition. So I didn't get in trouble with the cops at all, actually. I think I got a minor in possession of alcohol from beer that my dad bought me when I was 18 years old. But it wasn't a party scene, you know what I mean? It was just I got caught with beer.
Yeah.
So.
Which is also interesting too because, when we've talked about it, like you can drink, not an issue. Mikey, the same thing. Me, the other drugs, never really touched, or if I did, it was on occasion and no big deal. Nothing, but boy, booze for me, whatever reason. So it's weird too how we're all so unique in that situation as well. But
Well, there was a point, I'm sure, in my life that I know there was a point in my late high school years that going to a house party and holding on to my, fifth of Bacardi was my thing. But it wasn't because I liked drinking and I needed it. It was because I wanted to impress everybody around me.
Sure, yeah.
That was it.
You have to be drinking at parties when you're that young to look cool in front of the girl or something like that. Yeah, I get
The
that.
early days, it was just holding a beer and walking around with it. And that thing was full for 3 hours.
Keystone Ice, baby. Keystone Light.
I think it's because I got yelled at so much as a kid by my grandparents. If you open a beverage, finish it all. And I shit you not, that still goes in my head to this day. It's like, oh, well, when I drink, well, that beer's empty, or that thing, don't waste it. It's like, oh, Jesus H.
Well, that's the difference in my childhood. My dad wasn't a drinker. My mom wasn't a drinker. So alcohol really wasn't in our house except for decor. You know what I mean? The old, whatever, Steins and all those, the crystal.
Shag carpet, too?
I think I was pretty young when they had that, but they quickly transitioned into a more updated carpet when I was in my noticeable age. But yeah, my parents didn't really drink, so I think that's the biggest reason I think alcohol never really became a big issue or a need for me.
Well, and that being the case, it probably would have. Obviously, case in point for cigarettes. I'm sure your dad hadn't have smoked. You probably wouldn't have either because you wouldn't have been able to get your hands on them so easily.
Yeah, I think so.
We could say lesson as parents, right? All right, so starting to do blow at this point. You like it. You're enjoying. You're getting the glamorous side of it. When do things start to go south, and let alone head towards meth?
So. Cocaine was, the drug of choice for a year or so, and it really it became a problem when you start driving out of your way to find it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But again, even in that, I there wasn't the law side of it. You know what I mean? I never got busted with cocaine and had to do time or anything like that. So I was always grateful, and today I thank God for just covering me in that, right? But Yeah, I just, it was this just hanging out scene, even if it wasn't going to parties, it was make sure I had my 8-ball. If I didn't, one of my friends did, and I knew it was going to be a good night. Mixing that with things like Jib, GHB. That was the date rape drug.
Oh.
Jib.
Yeah, there was this thing called Jib that came out, GHB, and it was, they'd have little water bottles like this and full of GHB, and you'd take a cap and pour a cap, and you'd take that, and it was like the equivalent of like 6 beers.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so that became, that and cocaine were like, all right, this party's going, and it's going to be amazing.
Was it like homemade, or did you buy it?
Tell you the truth, I don't remember. That's what it did to me.
Yeah.
It was called GHB. Look it up. It is known as the date rape drug now. But
yeah.
Between that and cocaine, it was just fun nights of grabbing our guitars and jamming as friends, and just playing music and getting stoned and taking a rail and taking a cap, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, I feel great. My night's great. I'm having so much fun and no consequences. You know what I mean? Again, we weren't out in the public area. We were always safe doing it, in the comfort of my friend's home or something like that, which is funny because their parents were always home. But and it's not like their parents condoned the action. It's just they didn't know.
Which goes to show, hey, parents, pay really close fucking attention to your kids, because it's like you and a couple other assholes. Yeah, man, played fucking Foghat again, man.
I mean, there was times they might have come outside and were, under the street light with a big cloud of smoke going up to it, that I'm sure they knew what was going on.
Right.
But this specific set of parents was not the type to question us, as far as what we were doing. And they kind of probably were more that hippie style, you know what I mean, growing up.
So when did the coke turn into meth?
So cocaine continued. I continued that usage all through the next 3 or 4 years. Okay. The meth really came in. I got a job. So while doing coke and doing all this stuff, I was still going to school, and I got my degrees.
College?
Yeah, I went to a tech school and got my associates in graphic design, and went off to Chico and got a business degree, and was working. When I got out of school and stuff, I was trying to get a job in my field, but it was so difficult. So I ended up getting a job in a shipping and receiving warehouse for a power cord company, and hey, it paid the bills, right? But it was hard work. And I remember going into that job one day. There's this guy, Randy, and he was this guy that did some detail work on these power cords or whatnot before we shipped them out, custom orders, right? He was always in what we called light assembly. He was the guy in the back. And, a lot of the people that I worked with were older. But Randy, there's one day I walked in, I was just, kind of tired, kind of just putting around, really didn't feel motivated to do anything. And Randy kind of gave me this pill, and he goes, here, just, if you're feeling down, man, take this, and it'll help you. I live off them. And I'm like, okay, Tylenol, sure, great. It was like a little Tylenol gel cap.
Right.
I took that thing, and, oh, man, it was the most productive day of my existence at that job. I was pulling orders. I was lifting 100-pound boxes. I mean, it was just like, yeah, I got this, man. So every day it became, Randy, do you got another one of those? You know what I mean? Like, I could use another, pick me up. What do you got? It wasn't until I probably did that for a week or 2 weeks, not knowing exactly what I was actually popping in my system, until another lady, her name was Becky, that came and said, you realize what he's giving you, right? And I was like, what? She's like, that's crystal meth. But he used to take the Tylenol gel caps, and he'd put the crystal meth in it, and then he would drink it so it would dissolve, and he would have the meth in his system. Ingest it. And so she said, that's crystal meth. And there was that freak out moment. And this time it was about what I just did.
Right.
Because I think there was conversations that we had with my friends that it was like, I will never do crank or meth, or, I won't do any of that stuff. I'll stick with my cocaine, my marijuana,
and my jib.
And my jib.
My jib.
You guys got a completely different thing out in Oregon, man. You got jib, you got crystal
meth. This was California,
pills.
brother.
California.
Oh, was it? Oh, fuck, I was going to say.
This is California.
You
haven't heard of GHB?
I've never heard of
okay,
it.
you got to do some research. It's,
after you mentioned the date rape drug.
Yeah, they didn't really call it the date rape drug, but they didn't
obviously.
call it the date rape drug until after. Yeah, but in the party days, it was called GHB.
No shit.
That's what you got. So yeah, Becky was like, yeah, it's crystal meth, and I'm kind of blown away going, but I couldn't get over how it was making me feel and how productive I was doing it.
Right.
So again, the bad side of it quickly kind of just floated away, and it was like, well,
Fuck it, I
I
like
felt
it.
great.
Yeah.
It gave me energy. You know, I'm in a job that requires a lot of physical exertion and energy. All right, let's do this, you know. Well, she introduced me. She said, well, you know, I have some in a bag form that you can just, you know, either sniff or, you know, and she's like, well, I smoke it out of a pipe. And I'm like, oh, you can smoke it too?
So everybody was doing it out there? Or?
Oh, it was like the whole warehouse was all involved in it.
shit.
Yeah. It was kind of a weird situation. You know what I mean?
That is.
Like doing my coke and all that, I felt safe.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I'm in this job. I feel safe still because I'm in this job where I've been around people. And man, it was just, I don't know. It just something clicked in my head that was like, all right, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And now it became the curiosity of I ingested it and I know how it made me feel. How's it going to make me feel if I sniff it? How's it going to make me feel if I smoke it? And what is that process like?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was a big curiosity. Like, you can smoke this? Okay.
Right.
Excuse me. So yeah, you know, I ended up, she gave me a couple freebies. And again, all the while I wasn't paying for this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He'd just give me a capsule and that was it. So Becky had given me, you know, a couple bags to try on my own. I remember this process of getting these air freshener pipes that you can get at the gas stations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go back to Becky and I'd say, she said, well, just go pick up one of these glass, you know, air freshener things.
Yeah, I remember.
Bring it back to me and I'll make you a pipe. And I'm like, okay, cool. So in the meantime, I had tried sniffing it. I did that, and I liked it. You know, I liked ingesting it
Sniffing
more because it
glass
was
shards.
easy. You know what I mean? It was
Sure.
easier just to ingest it. And yeah, sniffing it, especially the crank version of it, which
That
is the
shit
dirty.
burns.
Yeah, there was a burn. But with my history of cocaine, you know, there's certain cocaines that I would take, it would burn. You know what I mean? So I wasn't concerned about that, right?
Right.
But all of a sudden she comes back with this pipe. I think it was the next day or whatever it was. And now instead of a straight little, you know, test tube looking thing, it's got a big bubble on the end with a hole in the side. And I'm going, oh, okay, how do we do this? So I think one lunch, her and I went out to the parking lot and she kind of showed me the process of, you know, putting the crystal meth down in the pipe, melting it up, melting it and letting it dry up the stem to be able to save some for later type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started smoking meth. And that's when things started to get, that's when the addicted or the addiction really kicked in. You know what I mean? Because then with coke, I still felt like there was days that I could say, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even weeks that I can say, I'm good. My nose is raw. I need to take a break. You know what I mean?
Right.
When I started the meth, that was really the point where it was like, I need it. You know what I mean? Like, I can't function unless I have my fix. Like, okay. And again, in that moment, I didn't think it was an addiction. It was just still having fun with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So quickly, it just turned into educating myself on the process, blowing my own pipes, and because those things didn't last forever. Sometimes you burn through them and waste your drugs at the same time, and it just became, that's what I did. I went to work. I got my meth from work. I worked my butt off because meth made me feel amazing.
So going into it, did they look like, because typically people who are addicted to meth look like they're addicted to meth. Did these people providing the meth before you took the pill the first day look like there was something a little off about them?
Randy did, yes.
Okay.
I was saying,
And you still
Randy-
took a pill from him.
Hey,
I
fucking
did.
God,
I did.
it's Randy!
And you still took a pill from him.
So
Well, but
I'm a people person.
but you're but you're what at this age? 20, 23, 24?
I am I'm 18.
You're
18,
18
19.
when you started there.
Yeah.
So when were you already had degrees by that point?
So it was all in the same window.
Okay.
So when I was working this job, I was still going to college.
Okay.
At some point, I had gone to Chico, escaped it all, but came right back. You know what I mean? After I was done. I was on the fast track system with school. So instead of a full 2 years, you know what I mean, to get my degree, I fast tracked. So it was like 12 months, 13, 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
So that time went by fast, but I always say that I was a very productive addict, right? Everything I was doing, I was working, I was going to school, I was paying my bills, I wasn't dropping the ball on anything. I maintained a girlfriend or, whoever I was seeing at the same time. Those girlfriends didn't know what I was doing, right? So I'm not doing anything wrong because, nothing's messing up in my life.
Yeah, you're a fucking juggler and a half.
Yeah. So where it really started to get dark was the need for it. And when I couldn't find it, the extent I would go to get some, not necessarily blowjobs in the back alley, but it was just like, hey, it's midnight and I'm out. All right, call my dealer, call Randy, call Becky. Nobody's got it. All right, what am I going to do? Page some buddies, because that time it was pagers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Page some friends. Hey,
what's a pager?
Google it. Call, page some friends and say, hey, I'm completely out. I need some help here. Dude, it's 12 o'clock at night. Where are you? I need it, dude. Come on. Make it happen. All right, well, I got a friend, again, I was in Livermore. I got a buddy in Stockton, that I know that can get it for you right now if you want it. All right, yeah, line it up. Give me, $500 worth.
Yeah.
And again, working. I didn't know other bills except for rent occasionally, with my dad or rent with my dad and occasional car insurance that I, when I kept it up.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had the money. So I would, take a midnight drive from Livermore to Stockton, which is, 45-minute hour drive.
Yeah, it's not that far from each other.
Grab my stuff and head back home. And then it was stay in my, at the time I was still living with my dad. By this time he had his own condo that he had. So we were out of this whole situation of sharing with other roommates, right?
Sure.
So I remember this condo had a 2-story setup, garages on the bottom, living areas up top.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent days in that garage, and I would dabble with music, and I'd record and make little beats on my computer or whatnot, and I would just sit there and smoke meth. By that time in my meth career, I had kind of dragged some of my friends into it.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of one of these things like, hey, you guys are, you think Coke is good? Try this stuff. You know what I mean? And a couple of them were like, no way, dude, we're not going down that route. And actually we kind of separated at that time because it was like they didn't want to hang out with somebody that was doing that kind of stuff. And but there was a few friends that were like, yeah, let's do it. And I remember nights being in that garage and smoking meth, and I'd hear a knock on my little garage door. And I'd open the garage at 1 a.m, and it's my buddy. He'd come in and we'd just sit there and together and we'd smoke meth. 4, 5, 6 a.m. Am I tired? Yeah. Am I going to bed? Nope.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the process. That was every night, every day. There did be come some days where at 6 a.m. I didn't have any more meth and I crashed.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say you had to have crashed eventually.
Yeah, no, I crashed and, wake up at 4 p.m, calling my employer going, I am so sorry, making up whatever lie I could to, avoid being fired. And, but that was, I want to say that was probably about, at least till I was about 20 years old that I was doing that. So 6 months to a year in that range.
Mm-hmm.
Just spending nights in the garage and smoking meth.
Fuck.
Yeah.
At what point At what point were you like, fuck, this is bad. This shit is getting out of control. All my money's going towards this. Granted, you didn't have that many bills, but $500.
Oh, every extra cent I have went towards drugs.
So
Sure.
Yeah.
when was it like?
There was a point.
Fuck.
There was a point where I had a binge, and I had enough meth. I want to say I had like a couple ounces,
Mm-hmm.
and it was enough to get me some hard jail time. So it was more like I need to do this as fast as I could.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The danger of doing all that, in 1, 2, 3, 4 sittings, wasn't even a part of my mindset at the time.
Sure.
The time that it really hit me that I go, I have a problem is so I had a moment where I was. Not a moment. It was 16 days of no sleep.
Oh, fucking
Jeez.
shit, man.
Yeah, 16 days of... And within that 16 days, I had also... Because I had talked to you about this too, is like in my addiction, I was really good at... Even though I wasn't hungry on meth, when you're doing meth, you just don't want to eat. There's the
Right.
appetite suppression is just, it's there. But I would force myself. So I'd go grab Taco Bell and grab a couple burritos because I love Taco Bell. And I know I can hammer down a couple burritos even if I'm not hungry. So I maintained that my weight, you know, I didn't shrink down. You know, I was probably 190 pounds and, you know, I still looked normal. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That 16-day stretch is the stretch where I lost about 40 pounds
Holy
in
fuck.
16 days. And that's when people started noticing. That's
Yeah.
when my girlfriend at the time, my mom, when I would visit her, you know, my dad would notice that.
I was gonna say, was your dad
You're
catching
looking-
on to any of this? Like,
That's the funny thing. Like, my dad was so preoccupied with his life. You know, he was involved with you know, he's an he's a pilot. You know, he worked at an airport, still does. You know, he's been working at an airport for 40 years. Like,
Sure.
his world was that airport. You know, he built helicopters for people like Jeff Dunham. You know,
I'll be
he built
damned.
his helicopter, right? Those, like, he was just so preoccupied with his life. But there was another thing about meth is that there really was no smell to it.
Oh.
You could smoke it.
no, there really wasn't.
You can
That's
exhale.
interesting because
Yeah.
that's a good thing for people listening to maybe if you're worried about someone that you know that it's not, because I would think because when it's being cooked, you can smell the fuck out of it.
Yeah,
when
the
it's
process
being
of
made.
making it. Yeah.
So I would have thought there would have been some sort of scent or smell or something to it as well, because I personally had never been around it in any situation.
There might have, if I was blowing that exhale right into your face, you could
Right.
probably smell something.
It's like the vape pen.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm blowing it in your face, you could smell it. But if I've been smoking it all day in this room, you would have no idea.
But the other part of it was, you know, crystal meth. It's crystals. It
Right.
forms crystals when you exhale. It forms crystals in your lungs. So there'd be times where, you know, at my dad's condo, I'd go into the bathroom sometimes, do my business, and I would, you know, smoke my meth in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I'd just exhale, put the fan on, but over time I'd see little, you know,
Things
stuff
forming
building
in there,
around
yeah.
the vent. You know what I mean? And but my dad was none the wiser. He didn't really. Again, he was always that dad that probably wasn't too concerned.
Well,
you know what
I mean,
with me.
based off your guys' upbringing and you working at a super young age, he probably never crossed his mind, Dad.
Yeah. Well, and
that
even
would
when my
happen.
parents were married, he was never that dad that was hands-on, right? You know what I mean? I mean, with my kids, his grandkids today, he's an amazing grandpa, and I love seeing that. But yeah, in those days, I don't think there was really I wasn't a big concern.
Well, and
He
I
had
think-
his life, he was doing his thing, and he had his, you know, teenage son with him. That was it. My older brother was also going down a path that probably wasn't, so he had a lot of focus on him, and
Sure.
I was just an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was. My dad didn't know. My dad didn't know. My mom was out of state. But anyways, people started really noticing when 40 pounds drop off my body, and I just remember kind of that oh shit moment. What am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because even now that the concern is set in for my health, I still had to go get it. You know, it wasn't like, holy, I just lost 40 pounds. People are noticing, like, stop. That's done. You know what I mean? And so it really became a problem then because my mind was saying, stop, no more. But my mind was also going, all right, so-and-so has a 8-ball, you know what I mean? Like ready to go of Coke. Let's go get it. You know what I mean? So-and-so had an ounce of meth. Let's go get it. You know? Oh, we don't have meth. Let's go get some. So it was always this, it's not an option. Go
Right.
get it. Go find it. You know what I mean? And in that period of time when I'm still working, the crazy part is, you know, I was at my job and they'd kick me down bonuses for how much work I was doing, right? Well, you know, it's like I get a $5,000 bonus from this company for reorganizing the warehouse, and they're impressed. And I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll do that every month if you want me to. You know, there was always something up here that I was like, I can get that again, and all I gotta do is keep doing this. So the health side, like, yes, there was worry, there was concern. That was when, you know, it really started, the fear set in of what I'm doing. But I still couldn't stop. I knew at that point it was like, this is no longer just having fun. I am now an addict. Like, this is, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. So,
Hey, so single attempt in getting sober? Multiple attempts? Rehabs?
multiple attempts.
Yeah.
No rehab.
No.
Never went to rehab.
Never.
Wow.
Never. You know, again, today I give God all the credit for being with me in that situation. Because
you're a 12-stepper like I am, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never went to rehab. I never got, the law side of it. Never went to jail. Never got caught with it. There's been a lot of situations, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Getting pulled over and having to go through a field sobriety test while I'm freaking just baked off of my mind on meth and high as hell, and passed the sobriety test and drove my friends home. It was like all that baseball paid off. My eye-hand coordination was great. So yeah, I never did rehab. I attempted to quit a couple times when I would have to go, visit my mom in Oregon. We would, I never wanted to travel with it. You know what I mean? So I would kind of pack it up in a safe and leave it there with my weed and my coke and all that, and I'd try and leave it at home. And in those travel days, I'd say, all right, I'm done. And when I get home, and of course, when I get to Oregon, I'm, sleeping a lot, and I'm basically crashing. But there was never a time where, I thought I had to go get external help to fix my problem. I can do it on my own. As soon as I returned back home, though, it was crack the safe and go right back to it.
As long as it's in your possession, you're going to do it.
What's that withdrawal process like then if you're up there visiting your mom?
Scary.
Yeah.
There was just, there's times where paranoia is the biggest, I guess, piece of the meth addiction. I mean, there'd be times I'd be sitting in my mom's living room, and even again, after it's still in your system, right? So I'd be sitting there just in the afternoon, and I'd kind of just pop up on the couch and go, hey, did you hear that? What was that? My mom's kind of thinking I'm crazy or something, but
I can't imagine the paranoia with the fucking 16 days in a row up. You got to start seeing shit at that point.
Yeah. Remember I said, knock on the door for my friend?
Yeah.
Right? And he'd come in. Those knocks become like every 5 minutes I'd hear a knock.
Yeah.
So it was, do my beat, take my hit, and then just sit still for 10 minutes, and go, did I really just hear that? Sometimes I'd walk out the front door and look around and see if anybody's there. There was a part of me that a lot of my meth days were, alone.
Yeah.
Right? But there was a part of me that was like just grasping for, I want somebody to join me, So I think those knocks were more like, yeah, I want somebody here with me. Did I hear a knock? So yeah, the 16 days, I can't even look back and say, like, I know that I was up for 16 days because I remember it was, I remember the day to day, you know what I mean, and what that looked like. But there was, the paranoia was through the roof. And when I would visit my mom, it was still there, it was evident. But the other withdrawals that I would have were just not eating. Again, even after I'm trying to, if I'm not currently hitting it or whatever, it's still in my system. So it was suppressing my appetite. So not eating breakfast, not that my mom would make, not eating lunch my mom would make, not eating dinner, you know what I mean? Not wanting to go hang out with my family and friends and things like that. It wasn't like, I'm sitting there shaking, scratching my arm like I'm a heroin addict. It was just, oh, you guys go do that. You know what I mean? I'm going to hang back.
Yeah.
And I would just sit there and smoke cigarettes because that was my, fill-in fix, and after those 16 days, the scariest part was crashing. I crashed for about 8 days, and I was pretty much non-responsive.
Holy fuck.
And I think that was also the moment that my dad started getting into the point of noticing something. I don't think it ever crossed his mind that it was meth or something like that. You know what I mean? I think it was probably just, I'm a teenager and I'm lazy and I'm probably smoking weed and.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah. But 8 days, and I remember him, telling me stories about, trying to wake me up and I wouldn't wake up. And it was just my body and my brain were done and they shut off. So.
Fuck, man. Your sanity had to be pushed to the brink.
Yeah. Like I said, I can't say it enough, man. I know something was covering me at that time, and I wasn't a believer. I wasn't anything. It was just something was there going, no, he's not ready to die yet.
So then what turned it around? What was the final point?
I don't know.
No.
To this day. Yes, I do know. When the supply left, Randy, Becky, all these people at my job that I was getting it from, even the other guys in Stockton and, all the different cities that I would travel to go get it, everybody just started disappearing, whether they got busted or Randy and Becky got fired from the job, and they would go somewhere else, and I never had contact with them again. The only contact I had with them was through work.
Right.
So all of a sudden, my supply was gone, and I didn't know what to do. I would resort to other things like, getting some Ritalin pills, crushing them up and sniffing those, trying to, get myself that feeling. But I just couldn't get my hands on it anymore. I could not get my hands on it. And it just kind of faded. It's weird.
I'd be damned.
Yeah. I wish I had that, again, when I'm talking in Celebrate Recovery about my past, right?
Yeah.
I wish I had a story that was like, oh yeah, I spent 2 months in rehab, and
Sure.
I lost everything and had to learn, but that wasn't my addiction.
Everyone's story's different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the kind of when people say a rock bottom is, some people is not necessarily ever truly have one per se, but that, kind of that hand of presence, those that are in 12-step programs be familiar, the God of a higher power as I see him, and we say that just to identify God.
Yeah.
Then maybe that was the blessing. Maybe that was, like you said, that was the power. But you've also mentioned a lot about your wife. You said to me, "My wife saved my life." What do you mean? If the supply dried up?
So there was times where supply dried up, but all of a sudden somebody would pop back into my life and be like, "Hey, I got some meth.
Yeah.
Let's go do it." All right, yeah, no hesitation. Let's do it. I've been itching for this for a month. Let's go. And so there was a lot of those days. When my supply direct supply would dry up. These other friends would pop in, and whether they're from college or wherever, and they'd have, something with them, and we'd go hit it, right? Or an ex-girlfriend or something would come across and have something. I met my wife in October of 2003, 4? 3.
We won't tell her we heard
Yeah,
the
don't tell
episode.
her. No, 2003. But one of my buddies an ex-girlfriend came to town, along with another friend, and there's a whole backstory there too. But we ended up getting high again. I hit it, and then all of a sudden they're out. So all of a sudden my stash is gone, my supply is gone, no option, I'm done. And then I went to the hospital for kidney stones, and I'm in the emergency room, and I think it was 21, 22, something like that. Maybe 22, 23, either way. And one of my friends walks into the emergency room with her son, who had fallen off a shopping cart and hit his head in the grocery store. And her friend, Bonnie, was with her. So a week after I had, had my last hit of meth, I met my wife, as of now, wife of 17 years. And, we met. And it was like, when I met her, everything inside of me that was, wanting to find meth or coke or any drugs, you know what I mean? It was gone.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, she became my new drug.
Right.
And it was like, I want this girl more than I want that right now.
Well, that's adorable.
Well, but the interesting
Maybe
thing
we
too,
will let her hear this podcast.
you tell her, and she is just a lovely, wonderful person.
Thank you.
Hearing you talk about all this, though, and meeting Bonnie, you now found connectivity, because the one thing that happened when your parents got divorced was mom was gone, so you lost that connectivity. Dad wasn't interested. You're essentially a latchkey kid.
Absolutely.
I know what it's like, because that's why, for me, people go, what was the thing that kind of messed you up? It was like, oh, girls, and it wasn't because it was like some crazy horn dog. It was like, oh, I got a connection, and I got the, so then it's there.
Well, and I was the type of guy that in all my girl relationships, they weren't short. They weren't one night stands. Like, I mean, I had a few of those too, but majority of them were like a year, 2 years,
You were the
4
long-term
years.
type.
Yeah, I was a long-term relationship guy. So when I saw Bonnie, and I remember I think a few days after I had seen her and met her in the hospital, I got a call from another friend of mine and said, "Hey, we're all going to go out to a strip club in San Francisco. Do you want to come along? And by the way, that girl Bonnie is going to be there. Did you met her?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah. All right, let's go." So next thing you know, I'm in a group of 10 people, 2 cars, and we're driving to San Francisco, hit up Centerfolds, and
Did you guys hit
Been
it
there.
off pretty well?
our first kiss was on the corner of I forget the streets, but it was it was on the corner outside of Centerfolds in San Francisco. It was our first kiss.
Well, if a first kiss outside a strip club
So
isn't
wait.
the most romantic.
So
Right?
wait,
Thank
you
you.
went in and looked
That
at
was-
some titties, and then it inspired going to make
I think we even got a lap dance together. You know what I mean? Like the funny thing is, she went there with another guy,
Oh,
left with me.
Okay.
So
I've been in that.
So like I
scenario.
was saying, the first kiss outside of a strip club in San Francisco, if that's not a storybook ending, then I
anybody
don't
that's
know what is.
listening or watching, I'm telling you, the key to a long-lasting relationship is a first kiss outside of a strip club. All right.
lap
after
dances.
lap dances,
Lap dances.
get titties in everybody's face.
That's right.
Centerfolds
That's right.
better pay us for this plug, man. I
Yeah,
tell you
yeah.
what.
I'll delete it out. I'll just take out the audio. What place?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, 17 years, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, married. We've been together for about 17 years. We'll be married. So I met her in October. We were married in July.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Just
So
new,
it's
huh?
Quick. Yeah. I just she had a kid, Isaiah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I fell in love with him
yeah.
before I fell in love with Bonnie. Fell in
I
love
know
with
what
this little
that's
kid.
like. Yeah.
He completely grabbed my heart. So that's why I say Bonnie saved my life, because after meeting her and going down and meeting her son, everything else became non-existent. It
Mm.
wasn't important anymore.
Yeah. And then you guys do some amazing work now, not only with your kids, but foster kids, and you know.
Yeah, no, and you know, I think you were touching on it, or I touched on it earlier, where Bonnie comes from a broken childhood too.
Right.
Physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, broken family, all that, and so all of a sudden these two broken people, meet and fall in love. And I think the first 8 years of our relationship were just utter hell. Like it was just, I don't know. We had great times for the first couple of years, and then after that, it was like, we couldn't stand to be around each other. We didn't talk. We didn't no intimacy, no nothing, right? And it was because we're both broken,
Sure.
But at the same time, we both came from divorced families, and when we first met, we got married. It was like, just so you know, we're not getting divorced, because I don't want our kids, Isaiah, who I ended up adopting, and Nevaeh, who we had just after we were married in December. And we just said, look, I don't believe in divorce. I think it does more harm than anything for our kids. And I want my kids to grow up in a household together. And I don't give a shit if that's a household that's fighting every day, which we're not going to do in front of the kids. But that was our stance. So no matter how dark it got, physical altercations, I mean, never hit my wife, never hit a woman, you know what I mean? But she hit me, and there was a lot of times where, but that was from her past, that
Sure.
trauma and that
Sure.
trying to escape type thing. And I'm sitting here wanting to talk it out, right?
That was the model that was molded.
Yeah. So, there was a long period of our marriage where it just it was bad. It was bad, but we stuck it out.
Yeah.
And we ended up moving up to Oregon as a family. And my wife got involved with an organization called Royal Family Kids, which is a organization that takes foster kids to a camp for a week. And she went to camp. At camp, she found God. She came back. Part of my youth was rebelling against religion.
Sure.
I hated it.
Was it forced on you as a kid?
It was.
That's probably why.
Yeah.
Typically, if it's forced on you, then you separate yourself.
Yeah, my
from
mom
it.
really, she met a guy after my parents were divorced that was Mormon, and she wanted me to go down that route. So I ended up getting baptized Mormon and all that. I never really practiced. It was more just to get the missionaries to stay away from our house. Because once you got baptized, they didn't visit you anymore.
Yeah.
So Bonnie goes to this camp. She comes back and she found God. And here I'm going like, well, don't be talking to my kids about that. Don't be forcing my kids into, this
Sure.
or that or whatever. And there was probably a couple weeks where she didn't force the kids into it. And then all of a sudden the kids wanted to go to church with her.
Sure.
So I became that dad who's just sitting at home while my family's going to Sunday church. I'm like, okay, this is great. I feel worthless, and they'd have like this dinner after camp, and I'd go to this dinner because I'd have to bring the kids to see their mom. They haven't seen her in a week, right? And all these people are coming to me, thanks so much for letting your wife come to camp, letting your wife come to camp. And I'm like, letting her? I'm not a I don't beat my wife, you know what I mean? I'm not like, woman, you know.
Damn it, woman, get back in the cage.
Exactly.
You know?
So it was kind of, and then all of a sudden in my mind, I'm going, wow, I must look like an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, I don't go to church with my family goes, my kids go, my wife goes, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm just the guy that stays home and gives her permission to do these things, right? So I decided one day, I said, you know what, all right, I'm going to go to church with you guys today. Packed up Sunday morning, go to church, and I found myself sitting in the pew while they're playing worship music. And all of a sudden, it was like tears rolling down. I'm crying. I'm just like, I don't know what's going on right now, but something's happening. Like, this is scary, you know? Thinking about my past, thinking about everything I've been through, and it's all coming to a head. I'm going, what is this, you know? And yeah, I started going down this path of attending church with them, you know? And then I remember the pastor's wife at the time was the worship leader, and Bonnie had posted some pictures of me playing drums and singing and playing guitar, and she invited me up there one day for a Father's Day where all the dads, quote unquote, were going to be on stage and doing this thing. And I said, all right, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. That's fine. Well, it was just me. It was just me and the rest of the worship team, no other dads. And she puts me front and center singing a song. And so I started, you know, that was my beginning of, you know, worshiping God and attending church and being a part of that. And quickly after that, I got involved with Royal Family Kids. I started going. I became a counselor, and I fell in love with helping these kids. You know, I fell in love with going to this camp and seeing the smiling faces, and then, you know, knowing the backstory of these kids and going, wow, these guys came from broken homes, you know, worse than mine. I'm going to give these kids the week of their life. And, you know, years went by, and it was like, all right, we felt like God was telling us to do more. So my wife and I went out and did the foster care training just as a, hey, if we're called to do this and we feel like there's a need for it, at least we're trained and we're licensed, we're ready to go. I think we finished training after 6 weeks, and I think within a week or two we had our first set of brothers that came into our house for a 24-hour period. And my wife used to come back from camp going, I want to adopt this kid. I want to adopt this kid. I want to bring them all home. And I'm like, slow down. So yeah, we started foster care, and you know, one kid after another. It was just like, all right, this is what we're meant to do. The connection with my past, though, was that, you know, these parents lost their kids because of addiction, alcohol, neglect, abuse, whatever, and it all aligned with our past. Like my addiction with drugs, Bonnie's, you know, my wife's abusive past and all that stuff. It was like we're in a mode to not only help these kids, but we're kind of in a position to help these parents.
Yeah.
All right, I see where things are leading me. You know what I mean? I see what I'm called to do, and so we continued forward, and, you know, here we are. I think it's almost 6 years of doing it. We've had over 27 kids in our home. Right now we have 2 little ones. So
it's badass.
Yeah, and through that we got to adopt another son.
That's
so
right.
Our son Dominic is 6 now. So he was a foster child. We had him for about 4 years, and unfortunately his mom just couldn't get it together and come back as much as we tried. And we fell in love with that kid. So we finalized the adoption after 3 years of processing the adoption. It was crazy, a roller coaster of everything.
Sure.
And yeah, now he's ours. So.
That's awesome.
And for those that aren't watching on YouTube, he's got a huge smile on his face, because we've talked, and it's like, man, that is an undertaking and a half. But the cool thing about what you just said there, and anyone that's maybe like, you know, is a 12-step program for me, if they're going towards it, is you talked about your spiritual awakening and service, all right there. And it's like a thing that if people that I've talked to, I know Mikey as well, is a 12-step may not be the answer. Like for Carlos, he did them, but he couldn't, you know, exactly. Carlos Vieira, we're talking about author, knocking doors down. But for him, he had to have something go beyond the group. Whereas you and I, we're the group people. Yep. We like it. Yep. We like that connectivity. Yep. So
I didn't like that either.
You know,
I didn't like the group thing.
Yeah. So for everybody, it may not be, but here what I'm taking away from that is that those things do occur for you one way or the other.
100%. And still to this day, I'm involved in Celebrate Recovery, and I go, and I have a lot of great friends that are, you know, some of the worst addicts you've ever met in your life. But they're just amazing people, and it's a great program, and I'm still involved with it, and I always will be. So.
And we tend to be, and I say we, us addicts, the least judgmental people, because it's like we've pulled so much shit. It's like we can't say a damn thing to anyone about anything.
Absolutely.
Mikey.
Jason.
Is it that time?
Believe so.
Uh-oh.
Rapid questions.
I didn't prepare for this.
These are just random questions. You don't have to answer them randomly, but they're all about fun shits and giggles for those over the pond. Mikey. You handsome son of a gun, you're up first.
Jason Van Dusen. If they were to make a movie about you, who would you cast to play you?
You know what? I'm gonna say Mark Wahlberg.
Oh.
All right.
Just because, in my mirror, I feel like I look like him.
I personally think you're a lot better looking than Mark
Well,
Wahlberg.
thank you.
But,
I know everybody on YouTube is gonna be laughing after this one, but I think I'm a huge fan of his. I love what he does, and he did that movie Instant Family about foster care and all that.
That's right.
I think it'd be a good fit.
Yeah. If you were on a deserted island and you had one movie and one album, what would they be?
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah,
that is my all-time favorite movie.
Right.
That would be the
laughing.
Yeah, that would be the humor side of it. I'm stuck on an island. I need something to laugh at.
I need to laugh.
Dumb and Dumber. Huge fan of Jim Carrey and Jeff Bridges. And album, and I think it's a toss-up. I mean,
because you talked a lot about making music and stuff. So.
Yeah, no, and I still to this day I love writing music and stuff. But I think Metallica's Black Album might be my number one, or Avenged Sevenfold Nightmare album.
Oh,
yeah.
That's not the first time we've gotten those, huh? Or at least Avenged Sevenfold.
Dumb and
Someone
Dumber,
brought 'em
I
up.
believe.
Yeah. Black Album is a masterpiece.
It
and
is.
Nightmare is.
It
too.
is.
Yeah. So.
Okay. If you can have dinner with anybody in the entire world, living or not, who would it be?
That's it's funny. I've heard you guys ask these questions, and I've never thought about it. Like, who would I answer? But I think not because of my own fanaticism, but my dad was a huge fan of John Wayne.
All right.
And I think that guy would be a cool guy just to sit down and have a meal with. I don't
John
know.
Wayne.
John Wayne.
There's something about him that it seems he would shoot you straight, right?
Yeah. It's got that. I mean, even Clint Eastwood would be my second choice. You know what I mean? It's got that vibe.
God damn it, Van Dusen.
I was going to say Hugh impersonation.
Gotta do it.
Yeah, no, Clint Eastwood would be dope. I would like to sit down with Clint Eastwood as well. That'd be cool.
Any pet peeves?
Um,
Other than when Mikey calls you?
I love it when Mike.
I was going to say, I don't know what
Okay,
you're
other
talking
than when
about.
I call you?
There we go.
I love it when you call me too, buddy.
Oh, all right.
Pet peeves, not much. I think I don't know, people driving slow in the fast lane, you know what I mean, type thing. That's
Gosh, I
I think
envy people.
everybody, you know what I mean, has
Except
that.
for those that drive slow in the fast
except for the
lane.
ones that drive slow in the fast lane. But yeah, I guess that'd be a pet peeve of mine.
I envy people who don't have that many pet peeves because I feel like I have so fucking many of them. Like someone will do something and I'm just like,
After this interview's done, I'm gonna walk back and be like, oh,
when
man,
you're
that
driving
drives me
home, you're going to
that's
think
my
about
pet
it.
peeve. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Right.
No, I think it's just people doing stupid things in the wrong situations. I mean, and driving slow in the fast lane is one of those big ones for me. So,
Damn, it is fucking annoying.
or
Favorite-
merge at the last minute.
Oh, or merge slowly. That they get on the freeway where it's speed limit 65 and they
Yeah.
do 35. Happened this morning, son of a bitch.
I
A
can
lot of
guarantee
mine are
that.
driving.
Exactly. I was going to say I
Yeah.
can guarantee that all my pet peeves are just driving. So, yeah.
All right. What do you
Favorite
got,
cuss
Mikey?
word?
Ooh. I don't know if I have a favorite. I mean, for me,
You're an equal opportunity
I'm an
obscenity
equal opportunity
user.
guy. Yeah, I try and sprinkle them as much as I can in every sentence in the right environment.
Right.
Sure.
Not when you're on a work call and your
Which one do you
coworker
tend-
has his kids in the car on speakerphone and you ask him if he wants to go to banana hammock party.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
My kids got a kick out of that.
Dad, what's a banana hammock?
True story, people on YouTube. He had his kids in the car and I'm busting his balls. Anyways, my question, your question.
Your turn.
Oh, all right. because he gives me so much shit about my answer. Superpower. If you could have any one superpower, what would it be?
Just before you answer, just think about it, okay? But don't think comic booky.
Oh, I've already had this conversation with my kids.
Okay.
What is it?
Mine's reading minds.
Why?
Because I want to know what someone's thinking so I can appropriately approach them or
Be like,
have
"Hey."
something like I know what's going to happen. Like I can sit across the room and be like, oh, all right.
What am I thinking?
I'm going to go
right
have a
now?
conversation. And I know exactly how to jump into that. You
Or
know what I
walk
mean?
in, hey, oh, fuck you, dude.
That would kind of mess me up. That's one I wouldn't want because think about we all have dark stuff that goes on in our brain to different levels. It would probably really mess me up to see like, my kids are at the stage where they're trying to figure out self-esteem and working on it. And it would probably really scare me and break my heart if I knew exactly what they were thinking at some points because.
So if I was able to select and like turn, you know what I mean? If I was
it's like
able to
a
like,
switch.
I'm going to point at you and all of a sudden your mind turns on. And then if I hear something I don't like, turn it off.
gotcha.
And then I'm going to point, you know what I mean? If I can
rather
do
than
that.
hear everyone's
Rather
at
than like
once,
what women want, you know what I mean? Or whatever
Right,
that movie, Mel
exactly,
Gibson, right?
yeah.
I don't know. That's too much. I don't want
Right.
that. I want to be able to selectively look at somebody and say, all right, what are they thinking? Boom.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Gotcha.
I got you.
Mikey, one more. We'll wrap this up.
One more. Okay. What are some of your greatest achievements?
Yeah.
What are some of my greatest
Or your greatest
achievements?
achievement.
No, greatest achievements. It's my question.
He wants
You always
plural,
fucking
sorry.
do this. Greatest
I'm going to go
achievements.
over here.
Oh, boy. My family
Yeah.
would be my number one.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Super proud of my kids and who they are, and yeah, couldn't be. That's my ultimate greatest achievement. But I think my ability to connect with people,
Yeah.
in conversation, I'm pretty proud of that.
Do you think your
I
third
don't
one
find
would be like when we got to work together? Would that be your third?
that's like tie number one. Just saying. No, and actually, 5150 in this lifestyle, in this company, and and you guys, and that's a big part of my life, and I love it. So, but
Likewise.
the ability to connect with people, you know what I mean, no matter status, background, whatever it is, I think that's what I'm pretty proud of. So,
As you should be. As you
All
should
right,
be.
you are the guest. You leave us with the final words of inspiration.
I just urge everybody to live the 5150 lifestyle. And that's live the madness. That's don't let anything stop you. Don't let anything hold you down. Just push through. There's nothing we can't overcome. There's nothing we can't get through or get beyond. And man, just don't let things drag you down. And laugh.
Yeah.
Laugh.
Yeah.
Just laugh. It's the key to everything. Damn
Like-
it.
like
laugh.
this.
Yes.
And on that note, we're done. Thank you, Mr. Van Dusen.
Thank you.